Hi, I am here today with Jeannie from the Family Justice Center, and we had a talk, I think, a few weeks ago that was really, really helpful to me. That I think it will be helpful to those of you who are listening. The Family Justice Center has a lot of resources and has been a huge tool in my own life when I was coming out of my abuse. It was something that someone introduced to me, and I went to a lot of their classes. There was a lot of their resources that was helpful, and we're going to talk about that today. But first, Jeannie, can you introduce yourself and also uh, let us know? A lot of people that are watching this are people that are either coming out of abuse or have come out of it, or know people that are in domestic abuse. Can you give an introduction of yourself and also explain what is the first thing that you do when people come to you about their situation, domestic abuse, or someone they know, and how do you empower them? What's the most important tool that you can provide to them?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. I appreciate you inviting me to this platform. My name is Jeannie Strohmeyer. I work at the Naghmeh Family Justice Center. So there are family justice center all around our country, and we are in Naghmeh. I am currently the program manager and have worked here for over 10 years. And so we do have a lot of resources, just like you've mentioned, and there's a lot more that I'd like to talk about maybe in a little bit. But I wanted to just mention, you asked about people coming in to the Family Justice Center. When they're coming in, what is it that we're working with and what are we doing? So first of all, people walking into the Justice Center, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery just to walk in, because people do not know what to expect. So part of what I'd like to just share with you is maybe what they can expect. So they maybe kind of release some of that fear. When people are walking in, first of all, they're going to meet with a community-based advocate. That advocate is going to keep that story confidential. When that client is walking in, when that person is walking in, the advocate's going to take them into a room. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk with that person walking in to see what's going on, to see the circumstances and what their situation is, and what they're there for, what they would like to see. So the advocate, again, is going to keep everything confidential, which is really important because in a family justice center, we have multiple agencies here. One being there are police on site, there is prosecutors on site, there's different agency on site, but we are all separate. So as a community-based advocate, we're going to meet with that person, and we are not going to make the connection to those other agencies unless that person walking in is wanting that help. So we are going to sit with them, and we are going to they're going to share their story, with their information, as much as they would like to. We will never coerce anyone or try to force any decisions on them. We are going to be very mindful. We recognize and are well aware of a lot of things that are going on in homes where there is domestic abuse. So we are very sensitive to that, and we are a trauma-informed center. So we recognize the trauma that is happening in these homes and in the biological makeup of what's happening inside the person, and even the effects on their brain that oftentimes people don't realize. So part of what we're going to do is we're going to bring education. We're going to bring information, because people walking into the Justice Center or walking in to see us, they often are very confused, have no idea what's going on, and they all they know is they love their family and they're trying to make it work, and it's not working. So as they come in and they're sitting down and they're talking to us, they're sharing their story with us. Oftentimes we hear how they feel crazy, how they feel, there's something, they can't be good enough, they can't fix it, they tried so hard, and they just don't understand how to move forward. So what we are going to do is we're going to provide them information and options. We will never, again, coerce or try to force anything on anybody. We understand the dynamics of abuse and understand how confusing it can be. So the first thing is we're going to educate them. We're going to give them information on the power and control and what's happening in relationships. We'll go over some paperwork so they can kind of see what we call the learning to recognize abuse, what that looks like. So we're going to just walk through that process of just informative information. Then as we give them information and they identify what they're seeing, what we're sharing, and what they're seeing in their home, then we're going to give them options. So here's some different options that you can do if you're interested in it. There's protection orders, or safety plan. There are different options of safe shelter, and whatever they're looking for, whatever they're needing at the moment. If they want to make a police report, then we're going to make that connection for them. If they don't want to, they don't have to, unless of course it's child abuse and we do have to report. But that's going to be our main focus at that moment, is sharing the story, and then information and options is what we're going to give to them.
Why is it important that you don't pressure someone? Why, you said it a few times that you don't force them to make a decision or to make a certain decision. And why is that important that you don't do that? And what if you are strongly recommending something, or you kind of give options and they don't listen and they just walk away and go back to their abusive partner or a relationship? Do you cut off connection with them, or are you there when they come back? And why is that important, the way you handle those who are coming out of abuse and not trying to force anything on them? Why is that so important?
So again, understanding how abuse, what abuse looks like, and the psychological abuse, and how that is it's kind of crazy making is what that's called oftentimes, or gaslighting, where you feel like you don't know what to do. And the fact is, I am not going to deal with the consequences of choices that person's going to have to deal with. So I am not going to try to enforce my thoughts on them and what I think they should do. I don't know their full dynamics. I don't live in their home, in the sense of I'm really mindful that in the end, whatever choices they make, that's the consequences are going to be for them and not for me. So what they're coming from is power and control. Someone's always making the decision for them.
Exactly.
So I don't want them to walk in here and then now we're going to make the decision for them. What we want to do is empower them to make their decision. And that is why education is essential, because when they get information and when they start recognizing that the impacts of this violence in their home, on themselves and on their children, and that they are worth so much more, and they have so much just great value, and there's so much more in their life that can be accomplished and that they want. When they walk into our building, what I'm going to do is empower with information so they can make the decision. And it is going to be a process. It is not, they don't walk in oftentimes. People don't walk in and say, oh, I know exactly what I want to do, how I want to do it, what we're going to do. And sometimes they'll say, well, tell me, what would you do? And again, I'll kind of back up a little, and I'm going to give them information of, let me give you some options. And here's what some other people do. Many people do this. So when we go through a protection order, people often will say, there's children on that protection order, or custody often on the protection order. And they'll say, well, what should I do? Should I give them visitations? And again, putting it back into their hands and telling them some different options of what other people might do and why they do it. And then again, giving them that power to make that choice is so, so important, because I don't want to take the abuser's place and take their control away.
Exactly. You don't want to try to control them, as they have learned, they've been groomed to be controlled by someone else. You said something about when people come in, education's key is so important, and also having them know their value, because they've been filled with lies of that they're incompetent, they're crazy, they're worthless. And so knowing their value is also so important to get them to a place where they're empowered to make those decisions and they're not being controlled by someone else. But you said something about when women come in, there's other fears that's controlling them wanting to make those decisions. Some of it is, if a broken home will impact my kids in a bad way, or they're afraid of being lonely. And we had talked about hope, the importance of hope, because when you're in it, it seems so dark and foggy, and you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. How do you deal with women that come and don't know where it's headed? And do you provide testimony of other women? Because, we all know when someone has walked out of it, when they look back, they never regret that, right? They don't say, oh, I regret having walked out of that. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, so I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people that are coming in that are experiencing abuse, and so it is, and people often think that they're alone. They think it's just them, and they think that if they could just do it right, they could fix this problem. They often don't understand that you can be absolutely 100% perfect, and it will never be good enough because it's not you, it's the abuser. The person that wants to take your power, wants to take control of your life, you cannot change. And so what I know is when they're walking in and they feel this weight and this heaviness of, it's my fault, I have to do something, because what we know is the abusive person's always pointing their finger at you, saying it's your fault. If you would, then I wouldn't have to. I had a lady that I worked with, a lady that she was on the ground and her husband was putting his hands around her neck, strangling her, and telling her, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have to do this. So again, blaming her as he's strangling her. This is just what happens over and over. And because of psychological abuse and the way that works, you just believe it. You believe it's my fault, even though it's clearly not your fault. You believe it because you are brainwashed, because you are being abused psychologically, gaslighted, those types of things that are happening. So when I hear that and I see that and they're coming in and I know what's true, I know it's not your fault. I know that you should be able to make decisions. I know that the abuser is taking power and control away from you because I have an objective view, right? I'm not in the home, I'm not in the situation. And I'm also aware of how domestic violence is very deceptive and very,
Twisted.
yes, it's gradual and you don't see it happening. And when you're in it, you just can't see it. And I understand that. So as I'm a person that steps back, I look into and as they're speaking to me, all I can see, this is what I see. I see hope. I see, wow, I hear where you're at. And this is a terrible place. But what I know is it can change. What I know is the fact that you walked in this building, you had enough strength and courage just to step in this building to get some help, tells me a lot about you, that you can overcome this situation, it is not going to be easy. It's a hard road, but it is worth it. And absolutely see that person has great hope. And I can see the light like you said, the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see a life change, a life living in safety, a life where their children are also living in safety, a life where there is the joy and the fullness that they always hoped for, a life of peace, because I've seen that with so many people that it brings me, as I'm listening and talking to the person in front of me, though they're telling me their story and I hear it and I'm with them in the moment, I also can see that there is great hope and change that can happen, but that person has to make that decision, and I'm not going to make it for them. But what we will do is we will walk alongside them. We will continue to say, we believe in you, you can do this, and there is great support, and you don't have to do this alone. So yes, absolutely, the hope is there. Our mission here is to promote safety, self-sufficiency, and hope and healing. And we absolutely believe it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this work. I believe in, and not only do I just believe it, I've seen it. I've seen it over and over again, where people's lives have been completely changed. And when we, as adults, change our lives and walk in healthy lifestyle and in safety, our children now have something else that's modeled to them, which is not abuse, but it's safety, it's hope, it's healing, it's fullness, it's joy, and everybody wants that for their families. Everybody. Oftentimes, what we find is people just don't know how to get that. So our goal here is, how can we help you see that you don't have to live this way? I don't care even if you've started as a child this way, and this is all you've known. I have seen and watched people, had the privilege of seeing and watch people walk as they were children, and this has been their life, and now they're adults, and they've gone from one relationship to another that's abusive. And now they're living in freedom. They're living in peace. they're living in a healthy life, and that is why we're here. We absolutely know that people can have that.
Yeah, one thing that I want to end with is one thing that surprised me about, as you said, the family justice centers are all over the US. One thing that surprised me was how much resources you had available, from
Mm.
education, walking them through the abuse, helping them make those decisions, empowering them. But you talked about CPS being there, police, detectives. You have classes. You said you deal with trauma. You have trauma counseling, housing,
Mm.
the logistics of someone getting out and walking through healing.
Absolutely.
And I had no idea all those resources were available
Mm.
until I stepped into one of the centers here in Boise. As you said, a lot of
Mm.
cities have them. Can you explain those resources? Because sometimes the woman is ready to leave, but there's the housing issue. There's how are we
Right.
to survive, and legal
Right.
aid, lawyer, all of that. And it's just amazing how much resources you're connected with in the Family Justice Center.
Yes, absolutely. And let me just say too, that when it comes to people walking in, we have a lot of resources. But I had a lady that came in, she walked in and she says, I don't want to do anything. I just want you to tell me what you can help me with. And that week, that's where she was. And I was absolutely, she didn't tell me much. She just wanted to know what we had to offer. Gave her that information. And the next week she came in and she said, I need help and I'm ready to walk that road with you because I can't do this anymore. And so we were able then to help her with the tremendous amount of resources. So I just wanted to mention that even if you're not ready right now, one day when you are ready, you will know that there are people that are here to support you in a multiplicity of ways. Here at the Family Justice Center, we are a co-located facility. So we have, like you mentioned, multiple agencies within our facility. So you would meet first with an advocate. The advocate can help with protection orders. Again, these are all options. These are not like you have to do this. The advocate can help with protection orders, with safety planning, emergency shelter, making sure you have a place to stay with your family. We can help with what we call case management. That means that just because you have safety at the moment, now what? Right? You maybe don't have a job. Maybe you don't have a permanent place to live. You have your children. You don't have the resources that you need. You're walking away with nothing. Maybe the clothes on your back. Now what? So that's where case management comes in. It says, okay, let's walk alongside you through this process and let's help you step by step to accomplish your goals, not my goals, but your goals. So we're going to sit with you. We're going to find out, what are your goals? What is it that you want? What would you like to see? It doesn't have to even be in 3 years. Sometimes we can't think that far in advance. Maybe just next week. What is it that you would like to see? And so we go step by step alongside you and help you figure out what you're wanting for your life and work with you to make sure you have that. Again, hard process, but worth it. And as many people as I've talked to, I've never, ever heard one person say, man, I wish I could go back to my old life.
Exactly.
Ever. They have always walked and said, I am so thankful that I have overcome. I went over the hurdle and now I'm in a good place. So the resources are vast. And the wonderful thing about it is they don't cost anything to the person that we're serving. So alongside that, we have tangible resources. It's not just here's some good information, here's some things to think about, right? It's tangible resources that's going to help you make sure you have food, make sure you have clothing, make sure for you and your family, you have shelter, make sure that we can help you work toward finding a job, finding permanent housing. I mean, there's whatever's needed, we're going to walk alongside and help you problem solve all those things. And then not just with words, but also with support and with tangible resources in our building. So that's what the advocacy here, that's just the advocacy. Then we have our, the different agencies. So if we're working with a person that is wanting to work through a divorce process, or custody, we do have legal aid attorneys here on site that if you qualify for their services, that's something you can get help with, again, at no cost to you. So we have counselors on site. We have groups that are talk about this. These are the education, because we talked about before that often what we hear in domestic violence homes, there's just lies that are inputted into your brain over and over again. You're not worth anything. You're stupid. Nobody's going to want you. You're fat. You can't do anything. You're good thing that I'm here for you. That's what you hear over and over again. And I don't care who you are. If that's what you hear over and over again, you just start believing it.
Mm-hmm.
But those are lies. That is not true. You are a person that has great value and that has a purpose here. And there's many people that do care about you, even though you might not feel that. I care about every person that walks in the store. Our advocates care about every person that walks in the door. And we will treat you the way we would want someone to treat us.
Mm-hmm.
What part of the process of the counseling and the groups is to help to take those and reveal the lies and to give you what's true. What's true is you are of great value. What's true is you are beautiful. What's true is you have a great future ahead of you. What's true is you can do this. And so this is the whole picture of what we can offer here. Again, it is a process. It is not an overnight thing. It is a process. And we invite people into the process. And if the person comes and says, I would like to start this process, and they say, forget this, I'm not doing this. This is too much and I'm not ready. And they step away, we invite them to come back whenever they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize in domestic violence, it is 7 times statistically people go in and out of the relationship before they end it. And there are really good reasons why they do that. And so we understand that, and we are welcoming, no matter what your decision is, it is your choice. So if we've helped you and invested in time with you, and you decide this is not what you want, you do what you want to do, and we will always be here. When you're ready to continue moving forward, we will be happy to help you.
And that was one of my greatest takeaway was that I wasn't being forced to do anything, but there was such a support there that you could go to, even if you make the decision that goes against what you're, all the education you're told, and you decide, no, I'm going to go back to my abuser. I've, we've talked about stories where women have done that. They've gone to education, they've gone back, and then they have been welcomed with open arms a year later when they're ready to make that step. Mm-hmm. And that's what someone coming out of abuse needs. They don't need condemnation. And that was a huge thing that was really stood out to me with the Family Justice Center, was that the open arms and the support that was there, all kinds of support and understanding. So is there anything you want to finish with? I think this is such a powerful tool. I've talked in the last, since I got introduced to Family Justice Center, I've talked to so many women, and I'm shocked of how many people don't have a clue that this even exists, that there's a Family Justice Center all over the US. Is there something that you want to conclude with that you would want women to know?
Yeah, let me just say, if there's not a Family Justice Center near you, there are other agencies and people that still will service and help you through this process. I would really encourage people, do not give up. Do not stop trying. I would also encourage you, if you decide, I'm not ready to walk into a building like that, if you have a place where you can be, it's a safe place where you can just Google information. Google, what is domestic violence? What is domestic abuse? How does this impact my children? How does this impact my life? What's healthy? What's unhealthy? Information, as you start realizing that, and those lies that have been deeply set in your brain are replaced with what's true, that will help you become more courageous and more brave to maybe step into a building like the Family Justice Center or another building similar. Again, there's shelters all over the place, and if there's no Family Justice Center near you, there's still people that want to help and are there to help you through the process. So I just encourage you, start the journey, and the journey for you might be learning, and you don't have to walk into a building to learn. You can read, there's great books, or again, make sure it's be in a safe situation. Look online and Google information, and if you just, it's all over. All this information is all over, and you can just start where you're comfortable to start. And you can live. I don't care who you are and where you've come from. You can live a happy, fulfilled, joyful life with you and your children, and you have the power to change that. And it's all, you're the one that's going to make the decision. So, but thank you so much for allowing me to come and to share, because I am highly passionate about this and highly I think people are great value. I don't care who they are so important. And so I hope that you will reach out for help. And I'm happy to be here to help in any way we can.
Well, thank you, Jeannie. I really appreciate your input. I think so many women are going to be helped through this. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.